Recording is about to start. You are recording. Make sure everyone knows they are being recorded.
Nice. Lee to the rescue. Okay.
All right.
Cool.
Take two. We have a great team. Good morning, everyone, and welcome to our webinar this morning. We appreciate you all taking the time to join us. My name is Lindsay Newman. I am the Partnership Coordinator for the Urban and Community Forestry Program here at the Georgia Forestry Commission. We're here today to talk about our Trees Across Georgia funding opportunity and the Georgia Tree Council's ReLeaf funding opportunity. I am joined today by Mary Lynn and Mel from the Georgia Tree Council. If y'all want to pop in and say hello.
Hi, hi everybody. I'm Mary Lynn Beckley, the Executive Director for the Georgia Tree Council.
Hey y'all, I'm Mel Sparrow and I'm the Outreach Coordinator for Georgia Tree Council and I'm based in Statesboro.
Thank you. And then we're also joined by Seth Hawkins. He's our state coordinator for the Urban and Community Forestry Program, and he's going to run the show this morning. We are going to take questions in the chat. So up at the top, you'll see the little chat icon. If you click on that, it'll open a chat box and you can type your messages there. And I'll monitor the chat and we'll try and stick to most of the Q&A at the end of the presentation. So that's it for me. Seth, if you want to take it away.
Awesome. Hey, thanks, Lindsay. I appreciate it. And yeah, thanks everybody for making the time to join us today. We're really excited. We, as a lot of folks here probably know, we started this big subaward journey, kind of restarted this big subaward journey last year. At least at the Georgia Forestry Commission. For those that have been around for a long time and known us, GFC used to have more of a robust subaward program that kind of went away for a while. When the Inflation Reduction Act walked in the door, that kind of kicked us back into gear with subawards. So we're really excited. We as an agency and a team have learned a lot in the last year, so we're really excited for this next round, hopefully to go smoother for everyone involved, us and the awardees. I think we've, again, learned a lot about how to let everybody know what the expectations are and what the guidelines and rules are, because we have learned a lot that we necessarily weren't always in between the ditches. So we've learned a lot in this last year. So, but again, thanks everybody for making the time to join us. As Lindsay said, please, if you have questions, put them in the chat. We'll either get to them in live time if it fits in with the flow, or we'll get to them at the end. We should have a good 20 to 30 minutes for Q&A at the end. So with that, we'll get rolling. Just confirm everybody sees my full slides, not my notes screen, correct?
Yes.
Thank you. Cool. So just starting off here, this is a one pager essentially. We adapted for the slides. So this kind of has all of our subaward program opportunities listed in one place for you. You can scan this QR code with your phone, but also every link in this is hyperlinked in the slide deck. I'll show you in a second when we look at where the tag guidelines are on our website. I will show you where these slides are already posted and where we will post this recording after the webinar. So that QR code link takes you to the pages to learn more about this. But as you'll notice, there is the tag Trees Across Georgia program. Then there is the ReLeaf program, the technical assistance program, not as much a subaward program. And I'll explain, there's a slide at the very end. It's more of a technical assistance kind of thing, but it is a great opportunity and feels like a subaward to the community. And then also just mentioning that community assistance, I mean, our community foresters, which I'll introduce here in a second, we got our whole team here today. We're here for you day in, day out, beyond the subaward stuff. So, I mean, our bread and butter is technical delivery and technical assistance to communities. That's what we want to help with, is all things trees where people live, work, and play. So even if you aren't interested in applying for a subaward or do apply and are not awarded, please use us as a resource, because we are a very great resource in my mind beyond the subaward stuff we're going to talk about today. Sorry, y'all, let me move this little guy. There we go. Cool. So as I said, I am going to introduce our team real quick. So Dave, Lee, and Sam, if y'all could pop your cameras on, that'd be great. Just to say, so everybody can get a face with a name. So we have with us today David Long, who covers the Northwest region of our state for the UC&F program. We have Lee Clark also, who covers the Northeast region. Sam Smith is based down in the Southeast and coastal area and covers those counties for us. And then I'm kind of just helping with the Southwest area till we can get someone back full time in that area. So yeah, I just wanted the team to join today and put a face with the name. But these are the folks that if you get a subaward through us that you'll be working with as far as boots on the ground, helping with technical stuff, tree planting decisions, species selection, guidance to navigate your way through the project. So depending on what county you're in, this is just a screenshot of our contacts page, and this hyperlink again is live when you get this slide deck. So you can go here, and I'll just go ahead. I'm going to pop out of my slides real fast. I'm going to be brave. I'm going to try to do this. So this is a screenshot, what I just showed you, of just this page right here. So you can put any county you're in, Banks County, whatever. The big key here is make sure you go down and click this Urban and Community Forestry tab, and that's going to show you the community forester for that county. Currently, right now, we have some updates. Sam just joined the team, so we have to update the Southeast area a little bit. But as you can see, this is a great way to find your community forester. We also have a handy dandy map. If you click this link, and again, it's important to roll over here. I mean, you can see all of our program areas and stuff. This is kind of a neat map. You can see the contact info for the foresters and the chief rangers for like burn permits and things. But if you go to the UC&F tab over here, that's where you'll see our regions. Again, some update to do here. This is about to be Sam's area, region 4 and 5, and then I'll still be covering this. But you can see here, you can find your county. Just another cool interface way to find your community forester. So. But thanks for joining the webinar today, team. Thanks, y'all. They're out there doing the real work every day. I'm helping to keep them running so they can help y'all, and they're doing the fun real work. So diving back into subaward talk. So this is a huge partnership situation between the state forestry agencies, in this case, Georgia Forestry Commission. The U.S. Forest Service is who is doling out the federal funding from the Inflation Reduction Act that is fueling the subaward program. And then, of course, we couldn't get anything done the way we get done in Georgia without the Georgia Tree Council. We work day in, day out. That is a major requirement for a state forestry agency to support their urban forest council. And but GTC makes it easy to want to support them because ever since I've been around, again, we couldn't do it without GTC. So this is just kind of a basic little mission statements of TAG of the Trees Across Georgia program. So you can see how it just kind of encapsulates it all there. So I'll let you read through that. But again, this is funded through the Inflation Reduction Act. So that had a lot of specificity tied to it in the fact that this funding is totally meant to help underserved, under-resourced, disadvantaged communities, whatever term you'd like to use. But I always say that the TAG program is working to get trees and get tree people in the places where they're needed most in the state of Georgia. So again, the whole idea of this is urban forestry projects, but all through the guise of environmental equity and tree equity, and making sure again that trees are going where they're needed most in the community to help as many people as possible. So we're really excited. GFC's always been a part, we've always given an eye to making sure that we help the most vulnerable communities in the state, but TAG has really given us a chance to put that at the forefront and hopefully really make some impact in the next couple years. So just real quick, and again, hyperlinks here that will take you to our guidelines that can be found in 2 places. And I will take you over to show you, well, I guess I can go ahead and show you on our website real fast. I don't want to show you submittable quite yet, but I'm gonna hop back over to my browser. Sorry, guys. And so if you go to our website, I'll just go to gatrees.org. We have a lovely, on our head banner, a lovely little grant program link here. Go to our TAG grant program page, and then you can find all this information here. Everything we talk about today will be housed here on this web page as well. Here's the link to the guidelines. Here's the slides for today. This will take you to the grant application portal that we'll show you a little bit of here in a second. Again, the recording will be posted here tons of resources. These are all things that you would reference during your grant application. Things as specific species lists and soil conditioning specs, and just really, things that you'll want to run across that'll say this is a required document. It's all linked within Submittable within the grant platform, but also here, just showing you here. So that's where the guidelines can be found there, also on Submittable, which I'll show you in just a second. Get back here. Cool. And so I'll also say this, the guidelines, we had to make them, we needed to make them specific to be guidelines, but if you've got ideas, if you read through these and you're like, well, I have an idea that almost fits, come to us, let's talk about it. I mean, this next till July 31st is y'all's chance to work through these projects, to hash out ideas and to work with us and use our expertise. Because we've seen what works, what doesn't. We've learned a lot at this point. So again, we can get creative with this, but I recommend reading the guidelines before you open the application at all. Just read through the guidelines. So eligible applicants. So this is important. First step on the application is going to be eligibility questions. Has to be located in Georgia. So this is cities, counties, public local municipalities. Cannot be federal property. Other state agencies could technically apply. Again, cannot impact federal property since it's federal funds. All nonprofits, 501c3s can apply. Educational institutions, tree boards, specifically if they have the 501c3 designation, but they have to be like working in concert with their city. So we just don't want like just a rogue group in a city. We'd rather see it a holistic community effort. So those are the eligible applicants. This is one thing that kind of hung some people up last year because it was a newer requirement, but it's really easy to go through the process. A unique entity identifier number. It replaces this, and the FEIN number. This is replacing of the old DUNS numbers, if anybody's familiar. But you can go to sam.gov. The big note here is the registration process takes a long time. You don't have to have your UEI registered. You just have to have it assigned to you. That is something we have to have for every federal funded grant that we put out. So just so you know, when you start the application, I would go ahead and just knock this part out in case there's any glitches, issues, but also reach out to Lindsay or myself if you have questions about that. And Lindsay, I was going to say, please, so Lindsay's kind of our grants guru, so, or not kind of, is our grants guru. So Lindsay, if you have, if I'm missing something, please pipe in.
I will.
Hesitate. Thanks. So we just wanted to, you'll notice when you go to apply that there's two different kind of pots of funding for the two, so we kind of have two different grant types, right? So there's the IRA funded grants through the Trees Across Georgia program. These are the ones that are, 80, but hopefully closer to 100% of the project benefits a disadvantaged community. And that is per disadvantaged in this case and so I'm using that term because that is what the Forest Service used. That is the language that the Inflation Reduction Act used. So I'm just trying to keep things uniform. For more public communication with my communities, I like to say under-resourced or lack of historical investment, or again, putting trees where they're needed most. But I'm going to use that term today because that's what the CGEST mapping tool and all that uses. And we'll show you CGEST here in a minute. The big thing for this is the match waiver. So if it's, again, a disadvantaged community project, there's a 100% match waiver, no match required. So that's huge, especially for these smaller communities, low capacity, low income communities that might not be able to come up with that match or even the in-kind. So there's slight changes from last year. So it's still the $10,000 minimum for the disadvantaged community projects, but we had to reduce the maximum per year to $150,000 a year just because the funding's a little more limited this year than it was last year. But still, I mean, that if you get apply for a 3-year project, that's $450,000 over the 3 years. So just, look at that. The cap went down a little bit. And again, disadvantaged community projects, IRA funded projects can apply for multi-year projects. The way that works is we will do an annual agreement essentially and renew it each year based on meeting performance milestones. So we also have, yes.
Sorry, I'm going to jump in there. Just last year, you could request for up to 4 years, but because of the timeline on the IRA funding this year, it's only 3 years. Just wanted to throw that in there. Thank you.
Yes. Yeah. So yes, the IRA funding expired. It had a 5-year mark on it. So So yeah, thank you, Lindsay, for throwing that in there. So we also have some non-IRA funding for projects that still we love to see a focus on helping disadvantaged communities, but it's not as stringently tied to it as the IRA funding is. You'll see the difference there is it does require a dollar for dollar match. So if you got $20,000, you'd have to match 20,000 either in cash or in kind. We'll talk about what match is in a second, what it looks like. Still the same minimum, 10,000. The maximum is 50,000. These are 1-year projects, though. That is another big caveat. IRA funded can be 3 years. Non-IRA is just a 1-year, one-off project. So I mentioned the CGES tool, the Climate and Economic Justice Screening Tool. So this was developed by the feds, basically to help navigate this whole process of getting IRA rolled out and making sure we're getting the funding to the places that need it most. So it's a great mapping tool. They cooked in about 16 different demographic data sets into it, things such as income level, access to transportation, walkability, susceptibility to storms and wildfires, pollution factors. There was many things cooked into baked into this. And so if it triggered enough of those categories, then it's designated as a disadvantaged census tract. And you'll notice that this is down to the census tract level. So it's a great mapping tool, and this is what the Forest Service has asked us to use when we're delineating where this money's going to make sure that it's going to where it needs to be. So you'll notice like this is Macon. So not all of Macon is showed as disadvantaged per this map. So they tailored their project to make sure that their planting sites were in CGEST qualified census tracts. Again, to make sure the trees are going where they needed most. Forest canopy is also baked into this. So you can have all those other factors that could be red flags within a lot of forest canopy, and it can throw this thing off and it'll show as not disadvantaged. You can have all the other some socioeconomic things in place but no trees, and it shows it as disadvantaged. So there are some hiccups with this. It takes local knowledge to navigate it a little bit, but it's a great place to start when we're laying out projects. And I'll say this, there's plenty of need out there. It's not hard to find places that qualify per this map that need trees. So
Hey, Seth,
yes.
we do have a question that's very much related to this. So
Mhm.
Phil asked, what about a smaller community that has a mix of disadvantage on other communities within the smallest census tract? So if we use the tool, we would not qualify any guidance to obtain the match waivers for a small community. So I would say we do also accept other forms, of data for this. So if you want to reach out to us with your specific situation, that's something we can look at. And there will be a lot of individualized questions throughout this. So please, our contact information is at the end of the presentation. We're hopefully really easy to get a hold of and to find our contact information just generally. So I would say, Phil, talk to us on an individual basis and we'll look at this specific question. But just so you all know, if you feel the same way as Phil, that you have an area that should qualify because locally you understand that area, then please let us know.
Yeah. I think there's other mapping tools out there. There's also just other supporting evidence, so we can talk about those things on a case-by-case basis for sure. Hey, thanks, Lindsay, and thanks for the question, Phil. And yeah, get with us to maybe offline. We can chat more about that for sure. Same goes for anybody else that might have had the same question. So just diving into eligible projects really quick. So these are kind of the 4 categories, and I'll go into more detail about what these look for, but or what these entail. So urban forestry program support. So this is, things we're thinking of for urban and community forestry management. So this is like kind of staffing, workforce development, definitely like developing ordinances, storm plans, invasive species removal. One important caveat about invasive removal is that can only be a 1-year project, regardless if it's IRA or non-IRA. So if it's disadvantaged or not disadvantaged. Invasive removal can only be a 1-year thing. Now, a disadvantaged community IRA funded one can be $150,000 for 1 year. So, but it still is just 1 year. A non-IRA one can be $50,000, but again, 1 year. So just keep that in mind. But the rest of these, if they're IRA, if they're disadvantaged communities, these could all be multi-year, 3-year kind of projects that you roll out. With staffing, kind of the idea is that it becomes seed money, that the money is used as seed money to encourage the community to take on the staffing full time, ideally, right? Or the nonprofit or whomever. So we'd like to see the asks for staffing money to kind of be tiered down as the grant progresses, just so that kind of puts the impetus on the community to assume that position and staffing funding. So tree planting, obviously, very much still a part of urban forestry grants. I always like to make sure this doesn't get lost in the fold, because all of our projects that we funded last year are a myriad of things that fall into the TAG program, but tree plantings, at the core of all of them. So again, you got to be these, tree planting cannot be for beautification, right? So it's got to be for mitigating heat, replacing storm damage, making more access to green space, helping those nature deprived communities. But you'll see here, so we're going to ask that you guarantee there's enough plantable space. And so we have, we can allow for soil reconditioning and soil decompaction and even impervious surface removal. That is an eligible category here. But we do have some soil reconditioning specs that we would ask that you or your contractor follow, just to make sure it's being done at the most cost effective and efficient way possible. So under tree planting, food forests are eligible. So important caveat here is not necessarily an orchard, more of a food forest type deal. We really, and we do have an approved species list for our food forest plantings on the TAG website and everything. We basically want to see shade generation with the secondary benefit of food products, just because we're trying to promote green infrastructure with this funding. So that's something to look at. It can still be very, very much beneficial to the community, but we just don't want to see like, an apple orchard kind of thing going in. So, but you can review that species list. Again, talk to us about it. Public property planting only. So even if it is a 501c3 that is on private property, they can't necessarily plant there, but they can use the funding to build a network and facilitate working with the community to plant on public spaces. So just remember that it has to be public property and not federal property. We'll ask for maintenance plans, just like any planting grant application you've ever looked at. And then once you get selected, you get one of our GFC community foresters assigned to your project to help with technical advice and things like that. So, and that's our team, one of our old versions of our team, making sure we keeping our skills sharp, planting trees, right? I promise we took all that stuff off before we, yeah. So other eligible projects, tree advocacy group development and support. So things like creating, creating tree brigades and tree steward groups and things like that. Even kind of smaller workforce development programs and things like that. So this can totally be funded through TAG, but again, the focus would be on making sure the outreach is going to those underserved communities to make sure that they're knowing about the benefits of trees, not just planting trees, not just putting trees in the dirt, but making sure they understand how this is helping the community, right? Urban wood utilization. This is something that we've tried to, we're trying to get more into at Georgia Forestry Commission, and we wanted to see funded through TAG. So this is kind of a newer thing on the block for me, at least, and for a lot of folks. But things we can fund is like education programs around it. Just kind of helping build the framework for an urban wood utilization network, either at the community level or a nonprofit taking that on for a community or regional level. So we can definitely help with like kind of the business planning. This would not be necessarily creating a business, but just helping come up with the framework of it, because it does just take planning to get these things in place. The urban wood is there. We just got to figure out a way to use it efficiently. So this is something that we're excited about. If anybody wants to discuss, please let me know how we can discuss getting this tied in with, TAG and disadvantaged communities and all that. So I think the opportunity's there.
Hey, Seth.
Yes.
You told us yesterday, I think, about Boston and what they're doing. I know that that's a really big project, but just so people have a better understanding of what urban wood utilization is.
Yeah, two quick anecdotes. So the city of Baltimore, they have a wood recycling center where they take all of their right-of-way brush and all that good stuff, and they have put a pyrolator unit on site, it burns all of their wood debris down into biochar that the city then sells to local farmers. And then it's also hooked up to the electric grid and creates electricity. And they're actually reducing the city's energy cost and energy burden by doing this. So really cool way just to make, lemonade out of lemons. And also Memphis has an amazing biomass facility that all the wood they sell to a furniture maker out west all comes from the right of ways and parks of the city of Memphis. So it's pretty cool. It can be done, and you can make good money with it. It's just getting it all figured out. So Atlanta probably makes more biomass than any city in the country. So it's there. The resource is there. So yeah, so just some quick, this is just kind of a little subset of projects. We had, I don't remember off the top of my head how many IRA fund or tag projects we had last year, but this is a little menu of them just to kind of show what folks were up to with the funding. So this is kind of all over the board, right, of what people were trying to do with this. So invasive removal, storm planning, and these were both non-IRA projects. So these are good examples of non-IRA things that they were able to get done with that smaller funding pool. But you notice Food Well Alliance, and this is tree canopy restoration and native food forests, not an orchard, but food forests, right? So anyway, we're really excited, and we've got other smaller towns like Tifton, got a very large tag grant, and they're going all over the place with it. Warner Robins, so we've got it spread all over the state, big and small. Trees Columbus, obviously, Savannah Tree Foundation. So we've gone big, gone small, and we're really excited about it. So just real quick note about ineligible projects. So beautification, I mentioned, landscaping. Obviously, we're focused on tree planting, green infrastructure, tree canopy. Trail construction and maintenance, we cannot cover, but we can direct you to some DNR grants that do help with that. So there are some good grant opportunities out there, just not through us. No equipment purchase, just because that's not allowed with our funding. We can't allow that. So capital improvements and construction, so burying water lines and putting pavement down, so anything that improves the value of the property, all right, can't be paid for with the funds. And then again, those community orchards, remember, food forest, yes, community orchards, not as much. So just a real quick note about match funds. So there's non-IRA projects. So I mentioned the IRA projects, 100% match waiver, right? The non-IRA projects have to have a dollar for dollar match. So you can see, $10,000 ask would be a $10,000 match. That can be cash or in kind, cannot be from other federal funds. So you can't match with funds from another grant, and GFC's time can't go towards your in kind. And you just have to get some documentation for that, but there's a form we'll look at in a second. Just more about match. So just so you know, if you are going to use any cash match, that has to be cash that was spent on the project. You can't just pull cash from another project and say, oh, we're using this as match here. So it just has to be aligned with the project. And then here's a little list of in-kind contributions. That independent sector rate for volunteers, I mean, that stacks up. If you do a volunteer tree planting day, you can really build up some quick match there, a couple thousand on a volunteer day. So this isn't a huge burden, easy to keep up with as long as you keep some records. So Lindsay, is this where we wanted to go over to submittable and show that, or no, I think that was in a few slides, isn't it? Yes.
That's in a few slides.
Okay, so just so y'all know, this is a reimbursement grant. So we will, if awarded, there are reimbursement documents. And so we allow, correct me if I'm wrong, Lindsay, monthly reimbursements is the minimum and quarterly is the maximum?
Monthly is, yes, you can do monthly, and then we would like to see at least once a quarter a reimbursement, just so we're keeping up with your project and we don't get a huge bill from you once a year.
And this is a quick note about the budget. So last year, we only had to honor a 10% indirect rate. And that's what folks ended up getting as indirect, but the de minimis rate actually went up per the Code of Federal Regulations. So now at this point, 15% is the minimum for indirect funds that can be requested here. That is if you do not have a federally negotiated indirect rate. And if you do, just get with us and we'll talk about that. So just another quick note about the budget. So for the IRA qualified, so the disadvantaged community projects, there's going to be slightly different budget sheets for either IRA or non-IRA. So just so you know, and we'll show you those here in just a second. They're within the submittable platform, very easy to download, and that's what Lindsay likes to see put into submittable. Using those sheets just because so everything's standardized. We have it all saved in one place, and it just makes things work really smooth. So you'll notice here the big difference is you have to be able to show your match for the non-IRA. That's really the biggest difference there. So ineligible expenses, just real quick. So no food and beverages. I already mentioned no equipment. You can't pay for like entertainment for your volunteers. No construction, and I know that gets a little weird with the soil reconditioning, but we're not calling that construction. But we don't want to see like full site grading and stuff like that. Like that, we can't pay for that. Replacing existing funding. So that's, you can't say, oh, well, we're just going to start funding this existing position using tag funding or IRA funding. So you can't pull the switcheroo on the funding there. And marketing materials, so like promo items and stuff like that. Now flyers and stuff like to promote an event, yes, if it's programmatic, yeah, but like you can't buy like promo items to like give out at county fair and stuff like that unless it's very specifically related to that project. So that's just something we'd have to talk about, but marketing materials as a rule, not necessarily allowed. So just real quick about the timeline here. So obviously we all know tags open. It will close on July 21st at 11:59 p.m. I think last year 5 o'clock was a problem for people. So we're going to leave it till the end of the day, right? Just a big note, even if you think, oh, I'm surely getting funded, do not start incurring any expenses until we have approved you. So we will let everybody know by October who got awarded, and at that point we'll start getting agreements in place, getting those signed. We really want to hopefully have people being able to plant this fall. I know last year we ran a little late and it jammed a couple people up, so we're hoping we can get everything in place. Everybody knows that they can be planting this fall. And again, just a note, we'll have that 1-year agreement and we'll renew it each year based on completed milestones. So Mary Lynn, do you want me to talk about ReLeaf, or did you want to jump in and talk about ReLeaf?
I can jump in if that's okay.
Yeah.
So hey, everybody. Yeah, so the Georgia ReLeaf Grant Program is a partnership between Georgia Tree Council and the Georgia Forestry Commission. It is very similar, except that the requirements and the application process is very similar. It's a smaller grant program, though, so it is specifically for tree planting or tree giveaways. A lot of folks do both, or one or the other. The maximum grant award is $15,000. Again, just like TAG, the match is waived if you're funded with IRA money, if you show that the tree planting and the tree giveaway will benefit mostly, disadvantaged, underserved, under-resourced communities. And again, the match is waived for that. But if it's not, if you are submitting for a project that will not be IRA funded, then there is a dollar for dollar match. All plantings must be on public property, and just like TAG, this is not for beautification. So this is for all those environmental benefits and these other categories that benefit those underserved or other communities, depending on which funding you're going for. So we are focused, however, mainly on tree equity, for bringing those benefits of a healthy tree canopy to under-resourced communities. So that's the focus of the Georgia ReLeaf Grant Program. So again, it's bringing those benefits to communities that need it most, as Seth said. Again, eligible applicants, it's the same. It's city, towns, and counties, local governments, 501c3 nonprofit organizations, educational institutions, all in Georgia. You have to be in Georgia. And then if you're not a 501c3, if the group is not a 501c3, you must apply in partnership with either a local government or a 501c3 nonprofit organization. And Seth, if you'll go to the next slide for me.
Yeah.
So these are the program objectives. Again, mainly Georgia ReLeaf is geared now to contribute to tree equity in disadvantaged communities, to improve the environmental, economic, and social health of Georgia communities, help sustain health and diversity in Georgia's community forest, help the city administrators and tree departments and tree boards plan to incorporate healthy trees into the growth of the city. And then increase environmental and health benefits to combat the effects of climate change. These are the things that funding can be used to purchase. So Georgia ReLeaf funding is for trees, the purchase of trees, staking supplies, mulch. We added that this year. So mulch is included in being covered under Georgia ReLeaf funding. Watering aids, tree, gator bags and tree diapers and those types of things, and tree installation costs if needed. So those are the 5 things that funding in Georgia ReLeaf funding will cover. Georgia ReLeaf, the Georgia ReLeaf grant application period is open now. It closes on July 15th. We'll do the same thing. We'll give you till the end of the day. We'll notify Georgia ReLeaf recipients in August. We ask that projects, either tree planting or tree giveaway projects, be completed by March 31st of next year. And the plantings, we ask that they should take place between November and March, because those are the recommended months for tree planting in Georgia. That's still the cooler months, and that's the best time to plant trees. Your project cannot begin, however, until we've signed agreements together. I send you an agreement to sign, you sign it, and send it back. I sign it and send you a copy. That means both you and Georgia Tree Council have agreed on a project and you're good to go. And then our grant guidelines can also be found on our website. Go to georgiatreecouncil.org, go to the top, what we do, and then find Georgia ReLeaf, and the full grant guidelines are there. And I think Seth is moving to find that. Yeah, so what we do.
Homepage.
Yep, Georgia ReLeaf. And yeah, scroll down, there's all the guidelines. We give you all the links, the CGES tool. And I really encourage everybody, I know this is really, it's a lot of reading, but it's very important that you do this reading. So take your time, read through it first before you click on the button at the bottom to start your application. So please read the guidelines. Again, so if you have any questions at all, here's my contact information. Mel Sparrow is our outreach coordinator. She can also answer questions for you. There's her contact information. And I encourage you to sign up for email announcements at our website. So there's going to be a button there that you can click, or you can just go to our website, gehtreecouncil.org, and go to the top, and you'll find the email sign up button. And that not only gives you announcements about grant opportunities like this, but also everything else that we do educationally and program wise with the Georgia Tree Council and in partnership with the Georgia Forestry Commission. So thank you. I look forward to getting applications and answering any questions you might have.
Hey, Mary Lynn, we already have some questions for you.
Okay.
Well, one question that 2 people have. So it says we have a pricing model for tree planting that accounts for project management / staff time, broken down as a price per tree that includes material cost, freight, project management, etc. Are these staff / admin costs eligible for funding with the ReLeaf grant?
So it sounds like you could break that down into the budget. And Seth, were you going to go through a budget form or no?
We were at least going to show the budget forms here in a second.
Yeah, it's but it's the ReLeaf budget form is the same. So I think that would be a good place to answer this question, to show you how to break down all of that in the form that we provide. And the form also, we also often offer an example as well. So that would help. So I know we haven't answered your question yet. But let's get to the budget form.
Awesome. Yeah. And I would encourage everybody, if you haven't already, please sign up here because not only that, but you'll also get all GFC's communications because we use GTC's network to get all of our stuff out. So hopefully that's how most people got here today. So thanks, Mary Lynn. And yeah, we'll glance at one of those budget sheets here in just a second. I'm going to let Lindsay kind of walk through that. I'm going to scroll through it. But again, so you can find the tag guidelines. I showed you where to find those, the Georgia ReLeaf guidelines as well. And then also on the ReLeaf page at the very bottom, there was this button, click to submit. And in this case, submit means like start your submission. Okay, it's going to always say submit, but it's not the final submission. There's also this same link on our tag webpage as well. So submittable, this is where you'll apply through, and almost all the communication will channel through this platform. So again, if you get these slides, this is hyperlinked here. But what I'm going to do is just pretend that I just clicked this hyperlink and it would have taken me to this page. So you get to our submittable page and you see both of the applications down here. So you can see the tag guidelines here, the ReLeaf guidelines are in there. So you can click on it anywhere. So again, submit in this case means start your application. So the first step here, so I'll just go ahead and walk through this process real quick. Yes, I'm located in Georgia. Government entity, next. And well, I thought it was going to ask me for my number, but
That's on the
anyway.
tag application.
Ah, okay. Do we want to go through that? Sure.
Yes.
See if we can go
Yeah.
there. I closed my email, so Lindsay, you might have to remind me of that number because I closed my email just now.
So you can't, so for everyone, when you click on the Trees Across Georgia link, you'll come to this page and then it's the eligibility. For right now, Seth, you can skip and continue to application there at the bottom, but for everyone, you will have to put in your UEI number before you can hit the actual submit application button. That's a requirement. So Seth, you can just hit yes, and you can hit yes right there, I believe. And yeah, so that just hit
So did y'all not see that
yes.
on the Georgia ReLeaf grant application? Because that should be there as well.
Your UEI question is within your application.
Okay, very good.
And yeah. So this is the Trees Across Georgia application. This is what it looks like and what you will see as an organization. Sorry, Seth, did I interrupt
No, you're good.
you?
You're good.
All right, so hold on, scroll back up just a little bit, Seth, then this is a slide that we have, but you'll see right above where the grant guidelines link is there to the right, it says manage collaborators. So it might get confusing here for a second for y'all, but bear with us. In the tag application, you can have someone or multiple people help fill out the application, right? You can collaborate together, but whoever's submittable account this application is submitted through, they are the owner of the project, and so they will be the only person that can submit the application. And if your project is awarded, they will be the person that needs to submit all the progress reports and all of the reimbursement requests. So you can have people help, but it's a good idea to think now about who you want that main person to be. Now you can change the email address and the name once the application is there. So if you're a grants person and you fill out the application and then your project is awarded and you need to change who the main contact is in submittable, that is an option. But just want to make sure that's clear for everybody. Now on the ReLeaf application, the managed collaborators button is not an option. It's a much smaller project, so it should be a pretty easy application and an easy project. If you would like to scroll down, Seth, so this is just, your basic information. Everything with the little red asterisk is required. We'll ask for project details, who's in charge of your project. Right here, if you'll stop for just a second. So the type of funding, this is where hit yes, if you will. Click the 80 to 100% there. All right, and so now this is like you're applying for the IRA funded portion of the tag program. So it will be a different application at this point slightly than if you, Seth, go ahead and please click one of the other percentage rates in that box. All right, so it changes slightly. So that's something to consider. This is a dynamic form. So depending on what answer you put in, it might change slightly for certain questions. And those screenshots that we showed you with the CGEST map, like you'll need to take screenshots on that web page and submit them as part of your application. Let's see, I'm going to read this question really quick just because we're talking about CGEST. It says our coverage area is 19 counties, 14 of which are listed as underserved communities. Do we have to list all 14 counties separately, even though we will be the lead organization? So it's our responsibility to collect data for the Forest Service and the federal government on where money is going. So if you are actively working in 14 counties, then yes, we need to know all of those counties. And I'll tell you, if your project is awarded on the progress report, we'll need part of the reporting process is we'll need to know what activities you're doing in what CGEST area, so that at the end of all of this, we can, hopefully have a beautiful map of where all of the money went. It's important for us to be transparent with the Forest Service and for you all to be transparent with us, because this is federal money and it's taxpayer dollars, and we want to make sure that we're being responsible. All right, so budget. This is where, Seth, if you'll click where it says see example template. So there's 2 budget worksheets if you're applying for IRA. Go ahead and see if that'll open. So the expenditures worksheet is a detailed kind of line item of what you'll be doing with your project, the cost of the trees, any contract work you might do, supplies you intend to purchase, etc. And so this is an example. You can just clear out those fields and start your own worksheet. And then Seth, if you can go back to the application and scroll down. So you'll download that worksheet and then you'll upload it. So this is the financial detail form. Yes, if you'll click on that. And so there's specific categories that all expenses fit into. And so while you're working on your expense worksheet, just be thinking about what category each expense would ultimately fall into. And so you'll see here, there's the personnel, labor, and fringe benefits, travel, consultant services, etc. And so all of the expenses that you put on that other worksheet will then need to fit into these categories and be budgeted here. So your 2 worksheets, the total needs to match. Here you can put in a match. So these worksheets are the same for IRA and non-IRA projects on the application. It's the same exact worksheet. For IRA projects, you don't have to fill in the match section. If you have a match, you can. And there was actually a question earlier that I just answered in the chat. It says, for IRA projects, is it looked on favorably to have a match even if it isn't required? And so if you know that you have a match, go ahead and put it in here. But when we are doing our review process, like it's not going to be additional points. You won't score higher if you have a match for your IRA projects. But if you know that you have it, we would love to see it, right? And it's always good to show to all of us and for us to show to the Forest Service that your community is actively involved and engaged through that match process. If you'll go back to the applications set. And then let's see. So in this section right here, if we were within a non-IRA application, which would have been selected up further at the top, there would be another form there that's your match expenditures. Yeah, so if you just select no right there, and scroll back down.
So yeah, there we have that one, the financial details, and then match expenditure.
There's your match. And so that match sheet is exactly like the expenditures worksheet. It just says match on it, is the only difference. And then also for the non-IRAs that require a match, if you have another organization, like just a private organization that's providing in kind to you or a cash donation, then we require a letter of support from them also. So that would be something to upload in the application. I think the budget aspect is probably the hardest part of the application. Please reach out to us if you have questions.
And Lindsay,
No.
this is the same for Georgia ReLeaf. I believe we're using the same forms.
I think your budget form might be slightly different.
Let's take a look at that if y'all
Okay.
can. So. Okay, there's a sample budget right there.
One second, it's coming over.
Yeah, and a lot of what we're talking about, one, it's in the guidelines, and there's also a lot of instructions in the application. So I'd recommend to just open the application and read through it before you really start working on it. It's always a good process. So yeah, so your budget's form is a little bit different.
Okay.
And so to answer the question earlier about like in-house cost for the planting and maintenance and all that good stuff, in my eyes, that would be the same as installation costs. So if that could be broken down by line item between the plant materials and then what's actually being spent on the installation and watering, then I think that could fit. Correct, Mary Lynn?
Yes, yes. And are you referring to the question about
the price per tree for like in-house?
Yeah. Including all of that, yeah. So yeah, again, they could folks can take this and just plug your own numbers and categories in, and you should be just fine.
Okay.
Yeah, I think budget wise that covers the budget, but once again, we're available if you have questions, about specific items for your budget or just how do I do this? We can get on a phone call or a Teams call, or we're here to help you, right? So please don't hesitate to reach out with any questions.
Yeah, I think a good first step for everybody after this, read the guidelines for the one you're interested in, go ahead and set up your submittable profile, start kind of clicking through it. And like Lindsay said, we're here for you. So
yeah, and the submittable, you just need an email address for that, and you will see it when you put your UEI number in there, it is already connected to sam.gov. Submittable is working with the federal government, so they're a pretty large platform for grants. So I already touched on this when we were in there, but I just wanted to make sure everybody knew about the collaborators option. I don't think that was an available option last year at the time that the application was open, but that is something that has been added.
awesome. So I know we're right up against time, so just kind of a recap. This is just a again, so just as the one-off recap of the opportunities, right, without all the nitty-gritty details. Has the minimums, maximums, all that good stuff. Again, read the guidelines. And this is an important caveat. You can apply for both funding for both grant programs. We are not, so if you have a current tag application, like a current tag project going, then we can't award a new tag project if the same entity has an active project through tag. So that's just one thing to consider. And then the final slide I have is just, this is not really a subaward program. I just wanted to make a plug for this. We'll be opening up in the fall, early fall, with basically a questionnaire. It's like a survey you fill out, and that's the application for this. But basically, we partner you up with the Green Infrastructure Center, and they do a bunch of awesome just tree canopy mapping, plantable space mapping, A lot of just like great goal setting for community forestry programs. So that'll come out in the fall. So we'll obviously push that announcement through GTC. And that population 50,000, if you're right over that threshold, go ahead and apply. We just had to put the cap there somewhere just for making sure we helped as many people as possible. If anybody has questions about that, just, reach out to me, let me know. And this is how you can reach out to either of us. So for more technical, like, species or planting stuff, I might be the quickest bet. For more budget oriented questions, Lindsay might be the quickest bet, but we both are available.
Seth, I have some questions to run through.
Yeah.
And I do also just want to note on the GIC, the application would open up in the fall, and signing up for the Georgia Tree Council's email blast would be a great way to make sure that you're informed about that. Let's see, questions that we've had. So we answered that. There was a question about the indirect cost, 15%, just indirect, or is it indirect plus admin? It is indirect plus admin. There is no category for admin that's separate on this budget. Okay, we answered that question and that question already. Is project signage required? And if so, can the cost of production of signage be included in the budget? I think it's supposed to say if project signage is required. So signage can be included in the budget as long as it's very specific to that project, right? Not just like a general sign for your organization. But if you are promoting your project, which is about education and outreach, then yes. Any sort of printed materials, this is part of the grant agreement, would need approval from us. There's non-discrimination statements that are required from the federal government and acknowledgement statements. So we just need to make sure that those get put on those documents. But yes, project signage is allowable.
It's not required though, but allowable.
And so we're talking about tag with Georgia ReLeaf. It's more specific, trees and watering supplies and staking, mulch, labor costs if needed. So just to differentiate there.
Okay. How many years has money been available, and will money be available in the future? This launched last year, was the first year. We awarded almost 7 million. They allocated so much to the state of Georgia as part of this. This very well could be the last round of this IRA funding. So that means like that match waiver, right?
The last year of TAG, but not the last year of ReLeaf. There should be IRA funded ReLeaf for 3 more years after this. Two.
Mm-hmm.
2.
Yeah, so this is where it gets, kind of muddy. We just want to make sure everything's clear. So for your Trees Across Georgia IRA funded projects match waiver, it all depends on the amount of applications that are awarded this cycle. We have a budget. We will not be getting more money toward that program. So when that money is spent, then that's the end of it. And yeah, we did award a good chunk last year, which is why we reduced the amount maximum this year. For ReLeaf, yeah, like we just said, you'll have a few more years of that match waiver. Now the non-IRA funding that we've been talking about that has the match, that will continue. And that's all just, that is an annual thing based on budgets. And so each year we'll readdress those questions. I covered all of the questions in the chat. Does anyone else have a question that they'd like to ask before we end? I know we went dash over time today. We hope that this was informative and helpful for you. Like I said, we're available if you have questions. The information's on our website. Let us know if you need anything.
Yeah, and just a promise from me, next year will be a little smoother when we do this same kickoff webinar for ReLeaf next year. I will make the registration smoother. Lessons learned this year. So. Well, if there's no other questions, I guess we can end it. But thank you so much for everybody making the time. And again, Mary Lynn, Mel, myself, and Lindsay are all available. And of course, your local community foresters for on the ground stuff. So please reach out. We'll get all the recording hopefully posted today or tomorrow. The slides are up there. And yeah, let's get on it. And again, we got till July 31st, but let's go ahead and start working. So.
Thank you.
Bye. Have a great day.
Hey, thanks, y'all. Is Lee still on here?